Welcome to the Fishbowl. I'm Brad Lineberger, Certified Financial Planner, and your host, along with Matt Callahan, Certified Financial Planner. And today we're going to be talking about the best ways to take money out of your investment accounts to be as tax efficient as possible and make them last over a 30-plus year retirement. We get asked that question all the time. What's the best way to take money out? Today we're going to dive in. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great. How are you?
You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah.
We've got a good one for you today. We're doing a lot of planning for a wedding that's coming up in April.
Yes. You getting excited?
Super excited.
Got your vows already?
Not yet. I feel like I'm already behind. Still working on some things to get done there.
Yeah.
And then I'm not focusing fully on that. I made a poor decision or a fun mistake to do a snowboarding trip that I've been doing.
How was the snow?
Snow was mediocre at best,
Okay.
but a bad day on the mountain is a good day doing a lot of other things.
Right,
You know?
and good company and your good buddies.
Yeah.
Jack, a little shout out to Jack, one of
Yeah.
our favorite fans.
So we do it every year, go on this trip about a couple weeks after Valentine's Day. One time a year that the wives or soon-to-be wives let us go and do our thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You keep that trip alive.
Yeah. What about you? Have you been surfing?
Been surfing, yeah. The water's been good. It's been cold out there, really cold, but waves have been really fun this winter. Funny story, I was out surfing in Cardiff Reef. I saw Jonah Hill.
Yeah,
the actor Jonah Hill. You know, in that movie, in most of his movies, he kind of gives you that stare. He kind of gives the stare that makes you feel kind of stupid.
Mm-hmm. What did you ask him?
I paddled right by him, and he threw that stare at me. Like, I got the death stare from Jonah Hill.
Oh, are you better at surfing than him?
I mean, he's on a longboard. I think he might be new to it, but I mean, he was doing fine.
That's fine. You can say you're better.
No, he was doing fine. I think what got him, though, was I made some offhanded comment. Our boards were similar color. I'm like, oh, we're bonding. Jonah and I are going to bond. I'm like, hey, nice choice of color on your surfboard.
Yeah.
Death stare. He did not like it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's still cool that you got to go out. You're surfing with him.
Yeah.
I love his movies.
Yeah, it was cool. And you've been doing the retirement planning today classes, right?
Yeah, so teaching classes at the community college, and no celebrities at those ones.
No Jonah Hill sightings?
Yeah, not yet.
In retirement class?
They seem to be okay. I still think they could use some advice,
Yeah.
but teaching those on
Yeah.
the evenings, a couple nights a week, and just educating our community.
Well, and this is a topic that comes up all the time from students in class as well as clients. And, you know, basically how they frame it is, I'm about to retire. They'll ask it one of two ways. What account should I take from first? Or how do I take money out of my accounts?
Mm-hmm.
How do I keep my taxes low? It's something like that.
Yeah, they have spent their entire lives building up. We're really good at saving it. Now, how do we get it back? And not only that, but most tax efficiently.
And it's interesting when you say we're really good at saving it. You know, the way I look at it is the most effective way to really build wealth is to dollar cost average. You know, we do it in our 401ks,
Mm-hmm.
we do it in our Roth IRAs. We save every 2 weeks or every week on our paychecks, and we're putting money in and building wealth that way. But the rules of engagement change in retirement.
Well, one thing I want to point out, I don't know if you know or have heard this, but people don't even think they're investing when they're putting dollars into their 401ks.
Right, you're right. Right, and now that they're in retirement, they got to be thinking about 30 years. They got to make that money last for 3 decades.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the national data, there's a 50% chance that 50% chance that someone's going to live until 95. And if you're retiring at 65, that's 30 years.
Yeah. So how do you make your funds last that long? You need to invest, and I just want to let everyone know that it is investing in there. You are going into the stock market, and we hear often like, maybe I don't want to roll over my 401k because I don't want to invest, but this is what you've been doing the whole time.
We got news for
Yeah.
you. You have been invested.
And inflation, like we always talk about,
Yeah.
the silent killer. You need to beat that and make sure your dollars do last.
Okay, so let's talk about once someone is getting ready to retire, what accounts should they be drawing from first?
Mm-hmm.
How do you think about that?
So we want to be most tax efficient, right? And so hopefully we've done enough planning ahead of time where there's some cash available over and above the emergency fund. So just some cash available.
Right.
You don't want to run into any issues if you retire and then the market happens to be down, and then you have to pull dollars out of your accounts when the markets are down.
Right. we all know we should be buying low, not selling low. And that's where that sort of in retirement mode is totally flipped from when you're working and building wealth. So you mentioned an emergency fund, and I like to think about trying to have at least 3 to 6 months of cash set aside, at least while you're working. In retirement, I mean, you and I will talk about recommending to people that they have a year, and Nick Murray recommends 2 years of cash.
2 years, I think, is pretty aggressive, but it can really, have some added benefits. I mean, if you're looking to do Roth conversions early in years, or if you want to live off of the cash and keep taxes low in general. And so 2 years of cash can work. 1 year is great, but definitely enough to get you through those first couple of years of retirement that this is all new. You've never, most likely you haven't not had a job before, so that normal paycheck isn't just coming in the door. So having that emergency fund over and above some cash, 1 to 2 years, and then from there, consider your taxable investment account. This is generally speaking, I mean, there are different strategies of why you may want to do one account or over the other, including your IRAs and Roth IRAs, which we'll get to. But cash first, it's already after tax dollars. You're not creating any new taxes there. Taxable investment accounts, so your trust, individual account, joint account, brokerage account, right?
Stocks,
and this one because you have the more favorable capital gains rates.
So talk me through that. Tell the audience what you mean by that.
So these capital gains rates can be 0, 15, or 20%, which usually are lower than other distributions or income that's coming in the house.
And when we're taking money out of our IRAs or our 401ks, that's taxed at our ordinary income rates, which for a lot of folks, 22%, 24, 32, 35, definitely higher than what you just mentioned on long-term capital gains.
Right. And so depending on income too, because it may make sense to do IRAs or just your taxable account or a combo of the two, because with the effective tax rate, it could be cheaper for you to pull out IRA dollars than getting the 15%.
Totally. So if someone's in the 12% bracket, in my mind, that's the one exception. So I'm with you. Take cash first, then go for your taxable account second, because as you're selling shares, it's more favorable long-term cap gains. But the one exception to, instead of delaying IRAs as long as you can, in my mind, if you ever find yourself in the 12% bracket, that's where you could take a strategic distribution out of that IRA because you're pulling it out and paying only 12%.
Right.
Better yet, I would even prefer to see people convert money from that traditional, if they're in the 12%, do a conversion out of that traditional IRA into the Roth while they're living on the cash and the taxable.
Yeah, exactly.
What are your
so
thoughts?
I love it. And yes and no, we'll get to that shortly. But so we've got cash and then taxable investment account, capital gains rates. So be careful here of the to go the 0, 15, or 20%. They have to be long-term capital gains. So holding your investments for a year and a day, very important when you're doing a distribution strategy to make sure that you're not causing ordinary income taxes, which are short-term capital gains, and just keep that in mind.
So if you hold it less than a year, you're paying the higher ordinary income.
Year and a day. That day is very important. But so then, cash, taxable account, and then IRA. You mentioned that could be good. And a lot of people will ask, well, the Roth IRAs are tax-free. Why would you not want to be doing that first, or why would you not do that before the IRA? And so we think we're going to have long life expectancies, most of us, and so being able to let those Roth IRAs sit and cook for a few more years while you're depleting out of the IRAs and doing Roth conversions can buy you more tax-free dollars later.
You're basically building a larger nest egg that's completely tax-free inside the Roth. You let that compound the longest. And then from an estate planning standpoint, what's fantastic about it is, of all the accounts we've mentioned, if the kids inherit a Roth IRA, it's still subjected to the 10-year rule, just like a traditional IRA would be. But every dollar coming out for the kids, totally tax-free.
Well, that's interesting that you bring that up, because if you're now talking estate planning purposes and the kids leaving a legacy to them or to family or friends, it could be even more important. It could be better for you to do your IRAs first and then Roth IRA or taxable investment, because like you mentioned, there's the inherited IRA rules. If they inherit this traditional IRA, they have 10 years to fully deplete that account.
Right.
And so that could be very tax inefficient for the kids inheriting the account. They're most likely going to be successful or at least in their highest earning years.
Right.
And so creating that tax time bomb for them, which maybe you don't care about because you're not here, but most of the people, they've worked really hard for this nest egg and they'd rather see the dollars go to someone other than Uncle Sam.
Right.
And so by converting the dollars, maybe it's not helping them necessarily because there's not enough time horizon, but converting IRAs to Roth IRAs to then inherit the Roth IRAs in the future.
Right.
And so maybe the strategy is cash up front and then IRA, Roth IRA, and taxable investment account, depending on the value of these accounts.
Well, and it just highlights the fact that you need a plan. I mean, everybody out there needs a plan, needs to have a strategy around which accounts to take from first.
Yeah.
They need to know what they're doing. And unfortunately, so many people, well, that's why they come to us. They don't have a plan.
And well, speaking now, going back though, I don't want, like, now people are thinking, well, he just said Roth IRA last because we want to grow tax-free dollars. Now he's saying taxable investment account last. I mean, so with current law, we've got the step up in cost basis. So that's where the planning strategy is coming into place is, let's say there's a very low basis. Yes, you've got long-term capital gains and it's 0, 15, or 20%. But let's say you put in $100,000 into your investment and it grew to $1 million.
Right.
I mean, there'd be $900,000 of gains there, which, of capital gains, which could be tax efficient. But let's say, terrible subject, but you pass away with that same account. Now that $100,000, the basis gets stepped up to $1 million, and kids now can virtually sell the full account, not paying any taxes on that.
Right.
So, I mean, generally speaking, that you cash IRA, cash taxable account, IRA, Roth IRA, but depending on your goals and what you're trying to accomplish, you might want to move those around a little bit.
Right. Yeah, that step up in basis is so valuable. And then the other interesting thing about, so typically we like to recommend, hey, live on the cash, do the Roth conversions early in retirement, delay your traditional IRA as long as you can. But then when we think about Social Security, that's where the delay strategy also comes into play to try and keep you in that lower bracket while you're doing the conversion.
So you're saying even if someone's thinking that I'm taking it at 62 because I want to get my income, maybe even if they believe that and they delay it just to be able to do these other strategies.
That's right, because depending on your provisional income, you're going to have potentially 50 to 85% of your Social Security benefit be taxable. So while you're delaying, you're getting a guaranteed 8% growth rate and keeping that tax bill lower.
I mean, it makes sense now. Now all of your accounts are growing further down the road too. But ironically, now these IRAs are getting larger, which means, and IRAs are getting larger, and then the required distribution age is getting pushed back. I mean, so pros and cons are good news and okay news is accounts are getting larger, you want to pass on more wealth, but now larger accounts means bigger required distribution.
So it's interesting, so depending on your birthday, the RMD starts at 73 or 75, and I'm looking at some projections where, modest middle-class Americans are going to have a required minimum distribution that's so large, it's throwing them out of the 22% bracket into the 24, and in some cases up to the 32 or higher.
Right, and then this is causing, it could be net investment income tax, which is another 3.8% on your taxable investment accounts. You could be causing Medicare, IRMA surcharges, which extra premiums for your Medicare. It's just got this whole ripple effect for tax purposes.
So there's really kind of a tension point in my mind between, I really like the idea of having this balanced approach of pulling from different accounts. It's less black and white as it used to be maybe 5-10 years ago. I think it's more fluid, and again, it's why you really need a tax strategy on top of your financial plan for retirement income distribution.
And I mean, with all these things we talked about, it should be being done years before you're going into retirement.
Well, that's right, because if you're going to build up a couple years of cash reserves to live on while you're doing conversions or whatever, that takes some time to build that thing up.
So what about conversions? Are there other times then that you should be doing this? Why does it just have to be right before retirement? Tell me more of that.
That's a good question. So when markets are volatile, to me, in my mind, when markets are volatile is a wonderful, we always like to say, make lemonade out of lemons. and market volatility or bear markets, great opportunity to do the conversion because share prices are down. So you convert, you're paying less in taxes on the conversion because there's less dollars, but then all of the growth, the recovery happens in the tax-free bucket.
So the markets are going to end up coming back?
Ultimately,
yeah.
I mean, that's what they do. Sometimes it takes longer than other times, but over time, that's what they do.
Well, that's why that 1 to 2 years of cash can come into play too. If it's an average of 2 years to recover, at least get you back to the starting point, you've got that other spigot to turn on to at least give you some income along the way.
Right. I mean, you think about 2008, market peaked in October of 07, and it didn't hit the bottom until March 9th of 09, so it was about 15 months in. And it really took until about 2012 to hit the pre-crash highs. So that's really a 5-year time period. Now that's the third worst in history. 73, 74 was really bad, and then 1929, the crash was worse. And even the tech wreck, you've got a lot of folks who are retiring today that were kind of in their early career years. They all remember that tech wreck from 2000 to 02. So that's how the market works. And that's normal.
And I mean, even more of a reason to have that Social Security timing strategy in place too. Just maybe you don't necessarily need the income now, but it can be the oh no moment, and that can be the ace up your sleeve to turn on that just to give you that floor, which means no matter what the markets are doing, the dollars are coming in the household. And I don't know, you tell me, what I hear a lot of people is retiring isn't necessarily what's scary to them. They've got plenty of hobbies. They pre-plan that of what's going to give them purpose in their daily life. But them not having that just normal paycheck coming in from work. So having a conversation about what does that look like and how do you create that?
So, and it's interesting too, because so you talk about paychecks. So here's the other half of the question, or the other aspect of the question is people ask, how do I take money from my accounts? And at first, when I was first asked this, I would say, what do you mean?
Right.
No, literally, how do I take the money out? Really, it's that simple. And so the mechanics of this thing is what you're going to do is you're going to set up a link from your investment accounts, all of them, to your bank account. And typically, we would recommend take a distribution once a month. You're used to getting paychecks every other week or twice a month or once a week, whatever it was. We recommend typically once a month. So figure out your retirement living expenses and then take the distribution once a month. We think it's a more efficient way to manage this. And then, also in retirement, in the investment portfolios, we'll have the dividends pay to cash rather than reinvest. They'll get paid to cash, which then helps to fund the retirement distribution. And we'll keep somewhere between 1 month up to maybe 3 months of living expenses in cash in a money market fund in the investment portfolio. Good news is money market rates are much better than 2 or 3 years ago. But literally, it's you just set up a link to from your investment account to your bank account, and then you have an automatic distribution that gets moved over.
And just saying that, people get so excited. They're just like, it's just that easy? I'm going to feel like those dollars are coming in? Well, yeah, let your advisor go in and do the under the hood work and pick the different asset classes that they're doing the distributions from.
Well, and stay on that for a moment, because there's a lot to unpack there in terms of when you're balancing a retirement income portfolio. It's got a nice dividend yield on it. It's got some interest income. It's got some investments for growth, for capital appreciation. How do you make the call as to what you should sell out of that? I mean, do you just sell it evenly across all the asset classes, or how do you think about that?
So I like to look at it, I like baseball. So think of a baseball team, 9 players, right? I want my best first baseman playing first base. I want my best catcher to be catching. I want maybe a couple of pitchers to switch in and out. So all of these different players are going to ebb and flow. They can't have 162
What about
games.
the Padres with 7 shortstops on the
well,
team?
then you got to move some people to right field.
They got rid of Ha-Sung Kim, though.
Right.
I'm so sad about that.
But so now you've got all these players, and they're not going to have their best game
Right.
every single game. So you need to just pull out when who's ever doing good. Maybe that's when you're taking the distribution from there, rebalancing through the markets.
Right.
It's kind of
Right.
not a game, but it's a strategic thing you need to
Sure.
think of. Yeah.
Well, and take the last 3 to 5 years, the asset class that's been the big winner has been U.S. large growth. And it's so funny because we talk to people that are in retirement classes or just people coming in here, the DIYers, And it's counterintuitive. People want to sell, they don't want to sell their winners. And they do want to sell the losers, which is exactly opposite of what they should do.
And really, we just need to buy low and sell high and take emotion out of it.